guys, welcome to another edition of A Little Perspective. This is the Little Ladies edition. I have two authors from our A Little Perspective Real Stories of Little Ladies book on with me today, and they are going to talk a little bit about their chapters in the book, and then we're just going to talk about general dwarfism life things. So today I have Meg Greenlee and Samyuktha Neeraja. And so Meg, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
I have SCD dwarfism, 30, almost 40. We'll go there. I'm not there yet. I currently work with the Social Security Administration, which is kind of interesting because I used to be on benefits myself. So going back and coming on the other side of everything that I've been on is kind of awesome. And I've, of course, overcome quite a bit in those years. Graduated college and thought I'd go into higher ed, and then I ended up in government. So now I'm going down this road. So we'll see what happens next.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Samyuktha, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure thing. Thanks, Angela. Thank you for having Megan and me on your podcast. It is lovely to be back and share my story. And I also wanted to give you a huge thank you for this opportunity to contribute to a book about women with stories about women with dwarfism. So I'm definitely excited about that. A little bit about myself. I am 32 years old. I have achondroplasia, which is the most common type of dwarfism. I am currently a program manager, or more specifically, it's a mouthful, but state associations relations manager at a nursing association, a membership association for registered nurses, for nurse anesthetists. I am the oldest of 5 daughters, and I'm the only one in my family with a dwarfism. And just like what Megan said earlier, when it comes to your career, you have something in mind that you want to pursue, but then later on in life, things happen, things change, priorities change, and you end up going down a different road that you thought you never see yourself in. So that happened to me. Like when I was going to school, I wanted to become a researcher, find a cure for a disease, go into the health sciences, medical sciences, microbiology, but then now I'm working in nonprofit, and that is probably one of the best decisions I've ever made.
That's awesome.
And I guess I forgot to add a few things too. Now that I'm hearing hers, I also don't have dwarfism anywhere in my family. Yeah. And it's amazing how many times we get those questions. Mm-hmm. They somehow assume that because you have dwarfism, you've got it in your family, or that there's other disabilities or something in your family, and you're like, no, it's just I call myself a mutant because I'm a spontaneous genetic mutation. I belong in X-Men, and my superpower shall be flight. Why? So I don't have to climb shelves and steps, and so I can hover and take the weight off my legs. So that's kind of my ongoing joke. It seems to be memorable, but it's it's nowhere in my family. My dad is 6'1", and my mom is got 5 sisters, but she's the tallest of 5'10", and then there's me, and my sister is tall. Mm-hmm. So yeah. But as we've all said, it's that it's that way with how many different people with dwarfism. So.
Yeah, 80% of LPs are born to average height parents, which fascinates me. I think that's insane. But yeah, so I in this group am the anomaly because my mom is a little person, my girls are little. So I'm the one kind of the odd man out in this group because most of you are born to average height parents. So Samyuktha, when I reached out to you and spoke with you about the book, tell me a little bit about your decision process to join us and to be a part of this book.
it was such an easy decision. I felt like you were reading my mind, or I felt like this was something that I always wanted to do something like this, because I was actually thinking of, like, what are my resolutions for, the year, especially now that we're still in quarantine, or how can I, continually make an impact and, share my story? Because that is something that I believe that I was, put on this earth to do, to make an impact, to really empower and inspire people like us to, know that like they are perfect the way they are. And when you came to me, like when you came to me with this opportunity, I was like, wow, like I couldn't believe, just read it, like seeing your message and how I was always talking about, writing my own book. And like this was definitely one of my visions, definitely one of my dreams. And I'm like so proud that, and just how it happened and how it's currently, happening, and just how organic this journey has been, and just like how everything's been working so smoothly, and just how you've been so supportive and here responsive for us. So like I'm very happy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was so thrilled that you said yes, because I knew that you had a story to tell. I had the pleasure of interviewing you when I started this podcast last year for Dwarfism Awareness Month, and I was excited that you signed on. Meg, tell me a little bit about your thought process and experience when I reached out about the book and you deciding to join us.
I have to agree, that this sentiment was, oh my gosh, did you read my mind? I mean, I've honestly known for years that I wanted to write a book and share my story. I've been told over the years that, by different people, by family, by friends, by, acquaintances, you should totally write a book.
Yeah.
And yeah. And, I decided, okay, sure, why not? I actually looked at Amazon a few years ago, the self-publishing, but it just seems so overwhelming to me, because I'm like, well, where do I start? How do I do this? Oh my gosh. And I sat down, and then I think I just zoned out from it and said, I'll come back to it. Well, then the pandemic happened, and I think for me personally, the pandemic, other than, the COVID being a horrible thing, the pandemic itself and being home has been such a great thing for me, mentally, emotionally, physically. I've been able to continue working, so I get the wonderful, awesome aspects of my job helping people, and I'm away from a lot of office politics, and so I can more focus on helping people, and it's given me more time to build my confidence and give me more time to self-reflect. And upon all of that, then Angela came in and said, hey, I'm doing this project. And I was like, you know what? This is the perfect time. And how awesome is it to be able to go through this with a group of wonderful, awesome, strong ladies who are led by this awesome, incredible woman herself. So yeah, I mean, I literally teared up when I got that message, and it's been one of the best things I could have possibly decided to do.
That's lovely. I love it. I love how serendipitous. So, because that response is common. Like, it's, wow, I was really wanting to do this, and now here's the opportunity. And so it's great that we kind of all have each other and are going through this together. It's really exciting. So, Samyuktha, how did you decide what you were going to focus on with your chapter? Because the we have a companion book, the parents book, the partner book, And that book is really it's focused on pregnancy to toddlerhood, so it's kind of easier for them to figure out what they're going to write. But we have an entire lifetime of things to write about. And so how did you decide? Did you already know, or did you have to kind of figure it out and whittle it down?
I'm glad you asked that, because I wanted to share that, like, that part, and like going off of what Megan was saying, like just like how a lot of our friends and family would tell us, oh, you should write a book, you should write a book. And that's the thing, like, it's the after, you know, stories, Real Stories by Little Ladies, Little Perspective book comes out, it doesn't end there, you know. Like, there's so much more life, you know, to explore, and there's so much more things that we can do. And but this is such a huge, you know, foundation, a huge stepping stone for, you know, sharing our story. And so I was thinking, so on that note, I told myself, okay, well, I'm not going to put my whole story in this chapter, you know, like, how can I fit, you know, 30 plus years of my life in, you know, a chapter. So I decided, you know, let me focus on one theme. And I was definitely going back and forth. I was like, do I focus on a point in my childhood? Do I focus on something in my adulthood? And to be honest, like, my mindset, or just like how I do things, is I'm always thinking ahead. I'm always, you know, pushing. I'm always, you know, running, in the sense, like, just trying to get to the next goal, just trying to get through the next day, you know, just like not looking back kind of thing, unless it's just something very monumental in my life that I want to, you know, hold on to, or unless it's like how good or bad, like, depending on, like, no matter how good or bad it, I'm always, you know, trying to, you know, think of what's coming next. But so that's why it was a little tough writing like thinking of like the chapter. But I thought, okay, at first I actually wanted to talk about my journey in music, and just like how playing piano and being involved in music in high school and like throughout my childhood was very integral to building my confidence and, you know, acceptance as like a little person, just really showcase my talent. But I thought, you know what, let me talk about a topic that a lot of, you know, women could probably relate to, you know. And so do I mention my theme, or I don't want to give it away?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so that's when I decided, okay, well, I always talk about how my experiences, like, in dating and relationships, are such like something that's always, you know, meant for the books. You know, this one will go, this is for the books, you know, that phrase everyone would say. So I thought, you know what, and because it's because I've just been coming off of those experiences in that time, it was still very fresh. It was still a lot of reflection that I've been going through. So I thought, let me share that. Let me talk about my dating adventure, and just like the trials and tribulations of that, and like how being a little person, and also being a woman of color, being, you know, Indian American, played a factor in that.
Yeah. I think I'm glad that you chose it. You wrote it well, and I think it needs to be told. And I think that it's something that a lot of us women with dwarfism, and even women in general, honestly, nowadays can relate to. So I was really thrilled that someone chose that topic. I was really hoping that they would.
Thank you. It was also I didn't realize like how vulnerable I'm making myself. I thought, you know, like, this happened to me, this is what I went through. But as I was, you know, writing, I was like, man, this is what happened to me. And this is what people are going to read.
Yeah. Did you feel like writing it allowed you to kind of more fully process it in a way that you may not have before?
Yeah, I think so, because a lot of, like I've said before, usually when something happens, I don't give myself that time to process it. I just kind of feel what I need to feel, and then I kind of just, like, you know, keep pushing through, just keep going. And now, like, I was actually nervous in the beginning, because I was thinking, okay, how do I write this? How do I go about documenting all these different, you know, pinpointing all these, like, certain instances that carried a lot of weight or carried meaning that people can benefit from. So, but then as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, this is what I learned, or this is an example of where my self-worth has been compromised, or this is an example where like I should have left it. I should have said no right away and not let it, carry on, just things like that. And just being very, I guess is brave. And knowing that like, yeah, this happened to you, but like, this is what also, like, how do I say this? Like, you've become so much better from this.
Yeah. It's helped form you into the person that you are, and you've grown past it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Meg, how did you come about to decide like what you were going to write about? And then, did you also feel that emotional, processing when you were writing?
Well, I just, what she said was just eloquent, and I felt that on so many levels, because I felt that too. But for me, I mean, as I said, I've already been kind of doing self-reflection with myself, kind of for a couple of years now, but more so since COVID. So I've kind of reflected on people I've known and where I've come from and where I am now. And I knew that I wanted to eventually do my own book and share my whole story. So I kind of ended up picking for this like a little snippet time frame of the period that I think I'd like to share with the rest of the world, which I have decided on my high school years, because I know that for many people, middle school is always a really, really rough time. Basically for everybody, not just some. And high school seems to be really cliquey. And I had some interesting eye-opening moments. Like I started high school with no confidence, no self-esteem, no nothing, while I ended high school with a solid part-time job and friends and, not my own vehicle, but I was able to drive just to and from school some days. And so I was able to basically show the haters that, hey, you think I can't? Watch me. And so there's some really juicy stuff that I won't tell here, but yeah, I think I decided on that because there's definitely a lot after high school, but I have to start high school to build on to that, and there's a lot before, because a lot that happened in middle school got me to where I was, or where I was in high school. So, but I mean, I know high school is definitely a big time for everybody in their life, but especially with some of us with differences, it's even more so, even more pronounced. And you get treated and talked to. It's all the stuff that people don't say, but it's the actions and the faces that you get. So I guess that's what I'm kind of gonna aiming to share with this. And oh my gosh, I think about certain periods, and like you said, I never really gave myself the time to reflect, but when you put it all together and then you read it and reread it, it really hits you. And you both think, man, I'm so proud of myself. Look how much I've been through and overcome. And at the same time, you want to go back to your old self and just give her such a big hug. But I mean, it's awesome. It's very emotional. And I think it has been for everybody, in various ways. But I think that's kind of how I've made sense of it. Just like, it needs to come out. I want to share my story. It's going to be emotional, but it needs to be shared. There's a lot of clicks and trials and tribulations, and and things that I didn't make sense of till way after. But I feel like I played out the typical high schooler, the clueless one, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how this is, how it's shared with everybody,
Yeah.
and how everyone else takes it.
I love that both of your stories like supersede the dwarfism community. You know, they're both very relative to the dwarfism community, but they're also very relatable just in general. And it gives people a glimpse into the struggles in those areas that are unique to us, because we do have unique struggles in those areas, but also allows them to kind of connect and empathize in a way because they do understand it to a certain extent. So I appreciate both of you for writing the chapters that you did, because I think it's really going to help this book cover more than just, you know, being an LP book, but just being inspirational and motivational across the board as well. So Samyuktha, tell us a little bit about not only being, and this is kind of a broad question, not only being a person with dwarfism, but being a person of color, a woman of color with dwarfism. You know, what are some of the challenges that you've found that are specific to that because of those two minority situations that you have?
Oh, well, where do I start? Are you saying specific to my chapter, the experiences, or just
no.
like in general?
Yeah, in general.
In general?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Like,
I know it's broad. I know.
No, this is good. So I think like in the beginning, I've always put my Indian identity, like my Indian heritage, kind of like on the back burner for a while, because I was so focused on being accepted, having my dwarfism being accepted, just like having me as a person recognized, and just like, you know, fitting in, that my Indian identity came second. You know, like I've experienced, you know, like various micro, like the things that I'm paying attention to now, like the microaggressions or like the subtle racism that I've been experiencing now, flew over my head when I was a kid, because I was so like, it was so important to me to like educate people about dwarfism. You know, it was like I was like, you know, the M word, you know, just like the usual ignorance, or just the misconceptions about dwarfism, it was always in the back of my mind, because that was something that was so important to me and my family to educate others about. I never lost sight of being Indian, but one of those things, like, when you want to fit in, is one of the first thing about you is your name. You know, your name is your identity, but I sacrificed my name because I didn't want that to be another barrier, you know? So in high school and middle school, until I got to college, everyone called me Sam or Sammy. And I didn't mind, because like whatever they called me, I was still being recognized in some way. But until now, you know, my name, like, people, they're still, you know, in work and career, like with my name, they're just assuming that I go by that. But no, my name has a strong meaning. It's a part of my heritage, it's a part of my identity. When my mom named me this, because of what, at that time, you know, according to, you know, the different astrological, according to my horoscope, or the astrological science. So like, that is something that I, you know, learned to, you know, hold on to. And it, on top of, you know, the different misconceptions with dwarfism, people would ask, you know, ignorant questions about, like, oh, like, I can't even, there's like so many things about, like, not just about my name, but like, why do you wear, the way they would ask the questions, you know, why do you wear the dot on your head, or like, do you eat curry all the time, you know, like, like, but the thing is, I didn't mind answering those questions when I was a kid, because even though I wanted to fit in, having, as a little person, my Indian heritage was something that I was so proud of, that I was so proud to like share, that I didn't mind sharing, because like, yeah, that is something I know, that is who I am. But then nowadays, like when you're trying to get into your career, when you're trying to, date, everyone's going to have a certain cutout. Everyone's going to have a certain picture of a certain idea of who they want to hire, Right. So when I'm navigating through these interviews, or when I'm trying to meet people or trying to get through my career, and you have me, I'm Indian American, and I have a disability, having dwarfism, I can blow the interview out of the water. But then you have someone else, an average sized person who's white, who's average sized. They do the same thing. They're obviously going to go with who who you're going to go. They're going to go with. Right. Like, I don't even have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the in one of the parent interviews, in an interview I did, I'm everything's a blur, sorry. In an interview I did with NPR, I talked about the challenges of finding a job, and they were like, well, like, how can you tell? And so I tried to explain the small ways that you can tell that they are kind of like writing you off just because of your disability. And I'm speaking as a white woman, so I'm not even speaking as a woman of color. And so again, that's just double the struggle with that. So yeah. And now you have this really amazing job, and so I'm so glad to see you in this position. You're helping so many, you're getting to enjoy your professionalism that you've much earned. So do you feel like you have had to advocate for yourself in those realms in the professional world because of both your color and your dwarfism?
Yeah, I've had to. I think with these, layers of, having multiple layers to you, you have to work twice as hard. You have to like speak 3 times as louder, and you have to like more than like any other average sized person. It's like you just have to prove yourself to so many people. It's like, well, I did this, like I also did this, but like you have to go above and beyond.
And you can't make any mistakes.
Yes.
And we're all going to make mistakes, but if you make any mistake, you're going to get remembered for that and only that. And they want to assume that you are not intelligent just because, and there's that, and the dwarfism. But yeah, just I totally agree with everything you said, and add that to, I mean, I'm so lucky to have finally landed a job that I like. But I've been in the same boat, and I actually, right out of college, I was in an interview. It was a group interview with 3 people, and I was testing it. So they obviously saw me. This is before I had so many mobility problems. I didn't have a crutch. I walked in with my head high, no scooter, no nothing. And I sat down. So really didn't have as many mobility problems, really just short and just couldn't stand as long. So I did bring up the elephant in the room to all 3 ladies. I said, okay, and I do have dwarfism. So basically all that means is that I need to sit, and that, you can't put stuff up high because I can't reach that. And I tried not to laugh. But at the same time, all 3 ladies had a collective sigh, like without doing it on purpose. And I mean, I will never forget that, but that to me is a really perfect example of what we all go through. you know, when it comes to interviews. And I, of course, didn't get the job, you know. And you know, like you said, you can blow these phone interviews out of the water, but then when they realize that you have dwarfism or disability, or you know, or color or origin or anything, you can forget it. And that's what we need to do. We need to all come together, because we're all people, we're all human beings, and it's very important we treat each other as such. You know, we're all different for a reason. We all have different ideas and experiences, so we need to learn from one another and embrace one another. But that's where I'm, you know, and that's a high goal, but you know, maybe we'll get there one day.
Yeah. Meg, you've spoken highly of your current position and you enjoy it. Tell us a little bit about some previous positions, work occupations that you've had that maybe weren't as enjoyable, specifically because of your disability.
Actually, my previous one before this, it was a foot in the door with federal government, and it was a really, really low position, like a receptionist. The only reason I accepted it is after looking at the math, and at the time I was trying to get off disability, and I had a part-time work at home job, which again, that work at home job was a call center junk job, and it was basically only for people with disabilities. So you know they're gonna treat you horribly and pay you low. So I took this receptionist job thinking I wouldn't be in it very long and that it would lead to other things. Well, it didn't lead to anything within that organization. But I do feel that regardless of what people intended or said, the actions and the looks and the whispers basically said, you're not smart, you're not capable, you're not going to get anywhere. And then my first job out of college was in higher ed. It was in the educational leadership department. And it kind of funny because I ended up going for my master's in higher education in the same college, just a different department down the hall. But the chair of that department, literally, he didn't like how I did anything. He didn't respect me. I even to this day have documents I created on my own that ended up going to all the students for the cohort groups and stuff to help with sharing the classes, the registration, the books, the location, the instructor, all that.
Yeah.
He would never, ever tell me anything good. You know, I got written up one day because they thought I had food on my desk longer than an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He tried to get me to take secretary classes because I don't know. And at that point, I was working full time with them and then going to grad school at night.
Oh, wow.
And he still wouldn't accept anything, you know, and that's just a snippet. Like in high school, I had a job at a movie theater, and I kind of ended up being the leader on that and having people follow me to, you know, go work at the theater. Then I left to go to a different one and tried to come back, you know, in between terms in college. Well, they wouldn't hire me back because they had met their quota.
Yeah.
That made me feel really good, you know, and
that's definitely a thing for sure. And
this, on top of all of that, it's how many interviews we all have to go through and how much it messes with our self-esteem and confidence.
It's so discouraging.
It is. And sometimes you have to take just a huge step back and remind yourself that you're strong and you're capable. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons that we've got this overcoming mentality, overcoming thing, because that's all we do. I mean, it's just what we're used to. You brace for it, you expect it, and it's sad, but it also builds character. But at the same time, let's share the wealth. Let's have some other people experience it too. You know?
We've got our lessons. We're good. We don't need any more.
Right.
Yeah. Samyuktha, tell me a little bit about your childhood. You are, born to average height parents. And so did you feel, was it painfully obvious to you that you were different? Did you, come to terms with it easily? How did your parents kind of handle it?
So my mom has always been my biggest advocate. She was the one who raised me, to be super, the strong woman, to be very resilient, and to just always believe, to work hard and to believe in myself. And so growing up, my mom would always call me a people person, because I just wanted to be well liked. I wanted to, to be friends with everybody. I just loved interacting with people and just hanging out with friends and everything. And I think for the longest time, I never really saw myself as little, because I just wanted to be like everyone else. I knew I was, but I wanted to forget that at times, because I thought, well, if I just see myself as everyone else, and I can be treated like that, I can be treated as everyone else, And I remember in the beginning, in kindergarten, when you're a young age in childhood, a lot of your friends are still about your height. You don't see any major difference until later, maybe when you're 7 or 8, when you notice that your friends are growing taller than you, and then you're not growing as fast as them. So that I didn't. So kindergarten, I didn't really see much of a difference. But then I remember in first grade, second grade, one of my friends called me little, oh, Samyuktha, you're little. Wow. Yeah. And I didn't pay attention. I didn't really make much of it. But then I remember the same day or the next morning, my mom, I was getting ready for school. My mom's brushing my hair. And I was saying in school, oh yeah, my classmate, Asfahan called me little, but I'm not little. I'm a big girl, And then my mom, gently said to me, and she's like, no, Samyuktha, your friend's right. You are little.
Yeah.
And then I remember just bursting into tears and just saying, no, I don't want to be little. I don't want to be little, Because it seems before, little, the word little, the word small, it has a negative connotation. Little is just oh, you're a child, you're be treated as a kid, but no, you want to grow up, you want to be big, you want to be seen. So over time, I think especially going to LPA conferences and meeting people who looked like me, and just definitely developing those friendships and mentors really helped in that self-esteem, and just knowing that, hey, you are supported, that there is a place for you in this world. And growing up, because I was the oldest. I have 4 sisters, and I'm the oldest. And I always learned, I wanted to be that example for them, in the sense of never losing sight of what's important to you, and just overcoming barriers with that strength, with that confidence, and knowing that no matter what brings you down, you just lift yourself up. And I think that was important to emanate, to show to my sisters. And on top of that, I was very, enthusiastic. I, being that people person mentality, I just wanted to be liked. I wanted to be involved. I just wanted to do things to show that I can do whatever I put my mind to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Meg, how was your childhood? Did you feel, supported and encouraged by your family growing up?
I definitely felt encouraged and supported, by my family, like my parents and my sister. My mom always, said, "Sky's the limit. You can do anything." I remember, we got some dishes and rearranged the cabinets, and um, we had things put on the lower shelf for me, so I didn't always have to climb. Um, and with there being such an extreme height difference for our family, we had to adjust to giants and then me. And so a lot of the furniture ended up being a lot bigger than, maybe some norm. And so I had a lot of footstools, a whole lot of them under the table, which I remember at some points we all fought over them because, like, my sister and my dad would want to rest their feet on them. I'm like, no, guys, you can actually reach the ground. I can't. Let me have it.
Those are our best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my younger sister, 4 years younger, but we were always fiercely protective of one another, and still are to this day. And she never really saw me or treated me as different. She knows I have some struggles, but she doesn't see it, as other than I'm her little big sister, which is our ongoing joke, and she's the big little sister. But I mean, other than that, her and I are basically what kept each other going. Because we had a lot of hate in the neighborhood. Like when we moved to the neighborhood that we ended up growing up in, I moved there when I was 8. Apparently, one of the girls in the neighborhood caught wind of me and told everybody else that I had some contagious disease and that they needed to stay away from me. And the kids being my age, well, I don't know, they believed it or whatever, but no one would come near me. No one would want to befriend me.
Horrible.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time kind of in my own little world, drawing or playing with dolls. Or what my sister and I did, like, every summer was we stole the kitchen table and we played Legos. Like, we made Lego towns. And at Christmas, my dad had a train that we put around the tree, and we would make Lego towns on either side of the tree. So, that's essentially how we got through until it got, to middle school, high school. I tried to make a few friends and tried to go out here and there, but it was always go back to my sister. We were always each other's friend, because I guess that's the time that I was taught how difficult the world would possibly be. So, like I said, to this day, we're fiercely protective of one another. My parents have always been supportive and encouraging of anything I want to do. Like I say, my dad taught me to ride a bike and drive a car and fly an airplane because he was a pilot. So I can do anything I want to do and then some. And he was determined to get me in an airplane and teach me to fly too, because he's like, I don't care if you're short, you just need an adaptation, and that's really all it is that you just need a modification and then you're good. I mean, I figure if we can be a leader and show how that happens, and maybe we can teach others. But that's another hope of the book. So
yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So as we wrap up, Samyuktha, what we all are very big on advocating and educating. So, what would you like to leave? What one piece of information or advice or what have you would you like to leave as we wrap up?
I think just diversity is nothing to be threatened by. It is a beautiful thing. It is nothing to be feared. It is nothing to be shunned. It is everyone has their story, has their own story. Everyone, has their own experience, to share, and everyone deserves to be heard. What's the thing?
Yeah. That's awesome. I feel like if we did as a world more listening, less wanting to be heard, then that could really go very far. Meg, what piece of advocacy advice would you like to share?
It's maybe another twist on it, but definitely the empowerment idea that everybody comes to the table with something, something good or a few things good. And it's important to let people share their strength and not on purpose to pull someone down because you feel unsure of them or it makes you feel insecure. We need to empower one another, and then to also empower ourselves, that it is okay to be strong and solid in your own self, but at the same time, you need to empower and encourage those around you. And I think if more of us could do that to more people, that would take a lot of insecurities away. We need a lot more love and support for everybody, not just diversity and difference and disability, but just everywhere. So, we'll see where we go with that.
Yeah, no, I think that's so valid. When we are able to be around other people that don't look like us and don't have the same experience as us, then we're able to not only grow our own, view on things, but also we can become more naturally empathetic and understand how we can bring equality, equity, accommodation, and advocacy to everyone. Because so often people self-select themselves out of needing any of those things, but just because you don't have an obvious disability like dwarfism, or you're not using a wheelchair, or you're not a person of color, doesn't mean that equity, equality, accommodation, and advocacy don't benefit you. And so the more that we're able to push that out, the better, for sure. So this was wonderful. I'm so grateful for both of you, for your friendship, and for being a part of this book, for allowing me to interview you today. Is there anything else you guys would like to share before we say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, for being such a great friend. And I'm just excited to see where we all go with this. But most important, this whole process and becoming closer with all of you has been one of the best things, that could have ever happened. So thank you for being you, and giving us all the chance.
Absolutely. That's beautiful.
I echo everything Megan is saying. This has been really, really great. Definitely it's been a unique experience as well, just getting to know everybody and just being a part of this process, and just, you know, learning about everybody's experiences, and also learning more about, you know, ourselves, and knowing like what kind of an impact that we'll be making for, you know, other women with dwarfism, and, you know, other women in general, once this all plays out. And I'm really just very grateful that to have you, Angela, just to like support us and guide us through this.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate that so much. So our book, A Little Perspective, Real Stories of Little Ladies, will be coming out in September. Both of these ladies will have autographed copies ready to go, so you can purchase from them directly. And I truly feel like this is going to be something that everyone can get something out of. So I can't wait for y'all to read it. Thank you again, ladies. I hope everyone has a really great night, and I love all of you.